Today, I'm at a bee farm in Ireland. Hello, I'm Andy. Welcome to Gwenyn and Gruffydd. Here we talk everything beekeeping, farming, countryside living, and we do reviews as well. Now, if you're on social media, you watch YouTube, you may recognize this familiar face.
How's it going, everybody? Ollie here from Olly's farm.
So I've come over to Ireland and we're going to take a look at what Olly does over here. Olly's a notable bee farmer, sells into supermarkets here in Ireland as well as other outlets too. He manages across heather hives, summer honey, spring honey, lots of wildflower, and we're going to see how he does things. So we're in our first apiary of the day, and it is at the beautiful Powerscourt Estate, an amazing old house and gardens. And this is one of 3 apiaries Olly has here. Tell me about this one, Olly.
Yeah, this is probably one of my first out apiaries that I had years ago. I've been here for years and years now. We're here in the orchard in Powerscourt Estate. It's the 3rd best garden in the world according to National Geographic, so it's full of wild trees, wild flowers, lots of ornamental flowers of course in the garden. We've got the lovely lime avenue up behind me here, up past the distillery. It's about 800 meters long, very, very old, mature lime avenue. And we're here in the orchard, which is loads and loads. You can see here, Andy, lots of old mature apple trees laden down with apples. And I've 16 hives here. I always try to keep 16. I have them in a semicircle, as you see, going round.
So why is it 16, Olly?
16 is just the number I chose.
Yeah.
Like, I usually start a new apiary off with maybe 12.
Yeah.
And see how they go. And if they're very productive, I'll increase it up to 16.
Yeah.
I think over in Kilrudry I have 18 there. But it's usually 16 in a site.
Nice.
I don't know, just kind of everything fits on the trailer and fits on everything nicely with that.
Good.
When you're clearing.
And you find the bees aren't out competing each other?
No, they're fine here.
Good.
Yeah. I think, like, we don't have, you know, like you were saying earlier, you know, like some other bee farmers have up to 40 beehives on a site. Like, I wish.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to just have 40 on a site, because then I'd do like, I could actually manage more. Yeah. Because I think most of my time is spent actually driving from site to site, not actually managing the bees, you know.
Yeah. That's definitely the case here over in Wales as well. Over in Ireland and in Wales, there just aren't really the crops often to get that kind of volume. So often in Ireland and Wales, things are much smaller, crops are smaller, but they're always exquisite.
That's true. Exactly, yeah.
So having a look around this apiary here, we've got a mixture of size boxes. So you've got your brood box there, your normal supers here, but some of these are deeps as well. So what's that about, Olly?
So when I started beekeeping, I was on, my first hive was a national nuke, and I always kind of saw that, and I like reading and listening to other people was, you know, we're always trying to improve our stock, get them more productive, get the queens laying more, and I think the national box now is too small, and that's why a lot of people are doing basically brood and a half, you know, like a national brood and a national super, which just makes a mess, I think. You know, some people go double brood, which is too big, and you lose a lot of honey in the brood boxes. So for me, I tried loads of different hives. Commercial, just too big, too awkward, and I just basically tried a few Langstroth and loved them. Nice. And quickly learned that most people in the world use Langstroth, so you can get equipment from everywhere. And especially since Brexit now, you know, like a lot of Irish beekeepers would have basically sourced their equipment from the UK. It's become more challenging. So I suppose over time, like for me, Langstroth just works great. You know, I can get my frames from Eastern Europe for like 50-60 cents each. You know, I get all these hives are Sweenty, and you were talking about basically the different size. So I went down the road of polystyrene. It's basically easier on the back, keeps the bees cool in summer, warm in winter, which means they consume less food and stores. I started off using one size box, so literally Langstroth deep for everything, and there was a brief period maybe about 8 years ago when I thought they were too heavy, because they do weigh 30 kilos, what's that, 66 pound when they're full, and I thought maybe I'd be better off with the mediums. So my next batch of hives, I just went for medium supers, and then I said, no, this is stupid. I go back to the deep. So I am mainly deeps, but I have about 150, 160 mediums that I use basically for sites that I have to carry stuff to sometimes. Like I have bees on the roof of, for example, Teeling's Whiskey Distillery in Dublin 8, and that's a lot of carrying and trekking up, you know, stairs, elevators, out of balconies. And I did have deeps up there, and they're heavy to lift a 30-kilo box out a balcony and all. So no, the mediums have their place, but I do find the bees really do prefer the deeps. Yeah. And I think Murray McGregor said that before. I remember watching a video where he said that the bees will fill a deep faster than they'll fill a medium. Just because they love big open spaces and they fill it, and they can dry the honey out better. But polystyrene, I was sort of thinking about, you know, like when I first got them, that they're basically plastic and, you know, environmental issues. But as Sweeney said to me, they still have these in operation for 30 plus years. You know, the original boxes, perfectly fine. Like how many cycles of wood, you know, like would you have gone through over, I suppose, 35 years. And on one of my beekeeping experience courses last year, there was a guy whose business is recycling plastics and polystyrene, and he says they're fully recyclable with him.
Oh, brilliant.
So that made me feel much better.
That's great.
So it's cool.
So you mentioned, Olly, that you have got hives on Teeling, and I think we talked earlier about data centers as well. So you've got a really interesting mix of sites. Where do you kind of site your apiaries, and how does that work for you? How do you get them?
I only asked one person, could I put bees somewhere? So I started beekeeping in 2012 with one nuke. Never done a beekeeping course, just literally got a nuke and watched YouTube videos and read books. And I thought I was a bit of a beekeeper when I had 6 hives in 2014. And I went down and I heard about this guy on the other side of the valley over the mountain that had basically had some allotments and kept goats and chickens. So I said I'd go down and ask him. So I went down and knocked on Tim's door. His name was Tim McGlynn, and said, can I put some bees here? And he went and got the tractor and post driver straight away. And we went down and knocked a few posts into the corner, and I've had bees there since. Amazing. And since then everyone else has asked me.
Oh, that's good. So
for example, one night I was at home and the intercom rang, and it was Fanula and Anthony from Kilruddery House and Gardens in Bray. And they were literally coming over to buy some honey. They had a small little farm shop that had just started up, and Anthony gave me a leg of Kilruddery lamb and, you know, said, we want to try your honey. So we got the honey, and then they called me a week later and said, the honey's gone, can you drop down some more? And when I went down, they said, would you put hives on the estate? And I said, yeah. And then, you know, the Powerscourt, like as well, said to me, would I put hives on here on the estate? And just those places. I have Carrickmines Golf Club, Foxrock Racecourse, Leopardstown Racecourse, as you were saying, a few data centers. I work with AWS Amazon, and it's a part of Amazon AWS and community, so they kind of support local enterprises and local social enterprises. So I produce some honey, I give it to them, and they basically donate it to some local small social enterprises. So it's kind of cool.
Wonderful.
I think I don't have any bees on any private land, if you know, like
it's all for organisations and businesses.
It's all businesses, except the farmer for the oilseed rape.
Wonderful.
But it's cool.
And where does your honey go? Is it all jarred by yourself?
I don't do any bulk.
No,
all jarred, all sold by me. There's a couple of places that I will sell like maybe a 20-kilo bucket to. There's a guy up in Sandyford, the Black Stuff, you might have heard of him. He makes soap. You might see his Instagram ads jumping in and out of the shower. He's a really nice guy. And he started making soap during COVID, but he's all about using top quality ingredients, and he uses my honey in his soap.
Wonderful.
So that's pretty cool. But mainly I put it into jars and sell it into shops and online.
Nice. So what kind of scale are you at now, Olly? How many sort of colonies do you roughly manage?
Colonies, it's about 300 to 320 at the moment, and I think I'm about 60 nukes made at the moment.
Okay.
I have another 20 left, but time is ticking.
Time is ticking,
and the thing is, I was hoping to make nukes out of, so like normally when I'm clearing down the honey in the autumn time, like autumn, like late summer, end of July, I usually take 2 or 3 frames of bees and brood out of each colony before I put on the clearing board, just like as I strip it down and make up a nuke and, you know, take them to a site and put in a cell into them. But because it's been such a terrible summer harvest it's been so weird this year. We had like probably the best spring honey crop like I've had. It was amazing, and then the June gap this year was just so long, drawn out. I think the queens just really slowed down and kind of reduced their laying down to maybe 1 or 2 frames, and as a result they just didn't have the workforce when the summer honey started. But the problem is the summer honey wasn't great anyway, because the weather, we had like a week of really windy weather, and I was over where I have bees in the oilseed rape with my mum. We were over doing the bees there, and it was 19-20 degrees and there wasn't a bee flying. It was windy, and like you could see all the hedgerows, bramble was full flower, everything, nothing was flying. So, you know, like obviously the wind affects the bees. And then we had it was just really hot. Like we haven't had much rain. No. And it's been so dry, like the clover didn't produce, like perfect conditions when you think about it, like 20, 22, 23 degrees, which ideal. Is what you need for clover.
Because clover only tends to produce nectar, or the nectar only rises up in a clover when the temperature hits about 20 degrees. So that's ideal, but if there's no moisture in the ground, the clover can't produce any nectar. Yeah,
it's a very shallow rooted plant. It's only like maybe 1.5 inches down, so no moisture in the ground, no nectar. They still get pollen off it, which kind of fools you. You know, because I have a lot of pollen traps. I have about 20 pollen traps on the hives at home, and it's sort of like a good guide as to what the bees are bringing in. But they're bringing in tons of pollen, but they're not bringing in any nectar. No. And then the bramble, I suppose, that probably dries out too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So,
and like, so it's been a tough summer. 3 or 4 sites done brilliant. The urban sites done amazing. So like the data centre's done great. The whiskey distillery done great. Ballycullen done great. That fella that I was telling you, the first off-site apiary I had, he's literally, if you look at the bees, are there 16 hives there. Where they fly out, it's all farmland up the mountains, but behind them, like 50 meters behind them, is just literally housing estates. It's like literally the beginning of suburbia. So they're right on the they're kind of right on the border of countryside living and suburbia. So they have lots and lots of gardens to forage. So, you know, it makes an interesting honey too.
That's what I hear a lot. I'm good friends with Helen Rogers at Highgate Honey in London, and she's had an absolutely bumper year. Obviously, often in the countryside, it could just be grass for cows and sheep. There isn't that much forage. But in the cities, there's lots of ornamental flowers everywhere, and it's carpeted, really. And so the bees have got amazing distinction of different plants to forage on, and lots of them. So Olly's obviously seeing that here.
Yeah, so my plan this year is, as you see, like we're into the 2nd week of August, and I haven't harvested my summer honey. There is honey in it, don't get me wrong, but like they're probably half full, some boxes. There's probably the top box only has 2 frames of honey in it, or 3 frames. So I've decided all my Wicklow hives, so what's that, what I say, 6 or 7 apiaries, fly to heather. Although they, you know, like normally they wouldn't be able to fill a box, but last year they did. But so my sort of theory this year is just leave the boxes on and see will they top it up with a bit of heather, and if they don't, at least they're well fed. But yeah, as well, my site at home, like that's 800 meters from the nearest heather, so everywhere else is cleared except 1 data center and T-links, and then it's just basically the Wicklow sites. Fingers crossed for the heather that they bring some in.
And what's your process, Olly, for clearing sites? Do you use a blower, clearer boards? How do you do things?
Clearer board. Every hive has a crown board on it that becomes a clearing board. So literally all I need to bring is a Tesco crate full of rhombus escapes, and they literally clip on. So I might be able to see if there's one under there. So you can see there, that clips on.
You can see here the outline of the propolis where the rhombus was.
Yeah, so that just clips on and flicks on upside down.
Got all these screws there for it.
Yeah, we should put our veils on, shouldn't we?
Probably. The bees are starting to realise we're here. We're going to pop our veils on.
Ah, they're not too bad, them ones. But you see them there. So you can see the outline of the rhombus escape. So what I do is I literally take off the boxes, put on the rhombus escape, flip it upside down and clear the bees down. But normally I make up a nuke as I'm doing each of them, you know.
So is that the only time you make up nukes, Ollie? Just when you're splitting hives down for the winter?
No, I'll also do it. I'll also make up nukes. So like I start off in the spring, basically, I suppose in the spring, St. Paddy's Day, around March 17th, I like to go around and just do quick first inspection, make sure everything has a viable queen. If it doesn't, it basically just gets a mark. And I usually write on chalk on the back of the box, small, medium, strong, you know, 1, 2, 3. And that just gives me an indication, you know, per apiary. I just write down then how many are viable, how many are weak, you know, and that's where my nukes come in then. So usually first week of April is when I go around and basically start equalising. And like when I do that first vision inspection, it's literally just to see capped worker brood. That's all I want to see. I just literally peek down between the combs because you don't want to be pulling them out. Like there's no point pulling them out, as curious as you might be. So I go around, inspect everything. Then I start to basically equalise within an apiary only. So I'll rob from the rich and give to the poor. What I don't like to see in an apiary, and I see it on social media, is just like you go into someone's apiary, like in spring or summer flow, and you've got these mountainous hives with 10 supers, and then you've got loads with 2 supers and some with 4. I like everything to be even. So I try my best to make sure that everything... Here we go, they're starting now. I have one nasty hive here over here that needs to be requeened, and I'm not sure if it's the pink floored one or the yellow green one here. So
we've all got those, haven't we?
Because every apiary has one nasty hive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I like to equalise, keep equalising, and then there becomes a point where you can't equalise anymore. But that's when it usually brings me to my swarm control, which is the flight boards. But I suppose the hives I don't flight board, I suppose I do what everyone else does, is, you know, weekly inspections and, you know, pulling out frames of bees and brood. So then I do make up extra nukes then. Okay.
So Ollie's talked about a flight board here. Now lots of people, to do swarm control, they might do a demery. Now this isn't a demery, but it's very interesting, and I don't think there's many people that do exactly the same thing as Ollie. So could you explain how you then do your swarm control? Because I know it's important to you to not have any swarming. So what is your method of then stopping swarming with the flight board?
For me, the flight board is, it can be all, like weather pending, can be all predetermined. So, you know, like we'd say if I was to do this site here, would have been back in spring, I'd come down here, for example, on the 7th of May, find the queen, take her out into a new brood box with 2 frames of bees and brood, and literally close up the hive, put it back together. And then I have this board that I put on top. I think Bob Binney calls it a double mesh screen board. Murray McGregor calls it a flight board. And it's literally a 3/4 inch ply, sheet of ply with 2 holes in the middle. And basically floor screen mesh either side. And a 3/4 inch shim around the edge with a 1 inch little entrance. And what I normally do is I just put that on top and put the old queen on top, facing 180 behind, and just walk away. That's in a brood box, isn't it, Ollie? It is, yeah. So it's basically the brood. So you'll have your brood box, queen excluder, super, flight board, old queen on top. And then what happens is over the course of a week, all that brood becomes mature and sealed, and they will make emergency cells. But I come back 7 days later, lift everything back down to the bottom box, knock down all the emergency cells and pop in a ripe queen cell, and then close it up and walk away. And, you know, at some point then, end of May, early June, I'll come around and harvest the spring honey, because I like to harvest a spring and a summer crop. But then I don't normally check the box until I suppose a week before the main summer flow. So a week before the main summer flow, I'll come round, I'll lift everything off again, and go down the bottom box. If there's a new queen laying, she gets marked and clipped if I see her straight away. And then what I do is I bring a trailer with a load of nucleuses, and I take 2 frames of bees and brood out of the flight board. That goes into a nuke, goes to a yard, and then all the surplus capped brood gets pushed down into the bottom box. So I suppose that's what I do. I basically push all the brood that I can down to the bottom box, make the colony strong again for the summer flow, and take the old queen away. And then it's, you know, just like some spare colonies, you could potentially requeen them again. You know, nukes again. Yeah. So then you have all fresh queens everywhere. Yeah. You know.
And so you put cells down there, Olly. Yeah. What? Where do you get those cells from? Do you raise them yourself?
I do. So I pick my nicest bees and I graft from them, and so it can all be predetermined. So like I know I'm going to come here on the 7th of May to do this, so I have to work back to do my graft to have those cells ready on the 14th of May. Nice. And then it's just going around. I have a little travel incubator, one of the ones from New Zealand. Yeah. I forget what it's called, Sericell or something. Yeah. And I have that, and I can just bring them around, plugs into the cigarette lighter in the car, and it keeps them nice and warm so they don't get chilled. And you just go around and pop them in. I use a little cell protector, you know, those little red cell protectors. They just stick into the comb. They're pretty cool. Wonderful. And generally it seems to work.
So your method is slightly different to how some people do their sort of swarm control. What's your thinking? What's the benefits of it for you?
The benefits for me is like swarming is a challenge for every beekeeper, and you know, I see other beekeepers and they have a lot of swarming. Yeah. You know, they don't get there on time. They get there 2 days late. There was bad weather. Like, my theory is the flight board works because you take the queen away from the nurse bees and there's no swarming. And by the time the queen in the bottom box is mated and laying, hopefully we're past the summer solstice, and that's when the bees flip from reproduction to winter preparation. Yeah. I know it sounds mad that we're talking about winter preparation the first week of July, but the bees do, like, the swarming literally knocks back. And I haven't really had much swarming from a newly mated queen using this flight board setup. And by the time the queen on top, you know, gets back up to laying, you know, it gets literally back up to consider swarming, like it'll be past, you know, like the last week of June. Absolutely. Where by then she'll be in a nucleus, knocked back down again to 2 frames of bees and brood. So it just sort of works. It just lets me focus on other things while everyone's going around doing their 7-day, 9-day inspections. You know, mine's done.
Excellent.
You know, but it is, I'm not doing it across all hives yet because it's challenging to work up there, and you need the weather when you want to do it, you know, to get queens in get into cells and do all that. But that is the plan, is to have eventually every hive on a flight board. Yeah.
Because it's just you, isn't it, trying to get all this done by yourself, Olly, or are there other people with you?
No, it's me. I have a guy that was working with me landscaping, Wesley. He was working with me for, God, since I moved up to the farm in 2012, and he helps me a couple of days a week. So nice. Other than that, it's just me.
Excellent. So everything's got to be efficient and got to be achievable.
Yeah, it does indeed. Yes. And since I start doing more other things, it's kind of like, it was all basically focused on bees, but now I'm doing kind of like the farm tours and beekeeping experience, which also take time.
Excellent. Okay, well, I think we're probably done here for now. We're going to go and see some other sites. Nice sign there to warn the public. Obviously, if the public have got access to any of your apiaries, you are really going to need to warn them. You don't really want to be liable if anything happens to them. Where are we though, Olly?
We're still in Powerscourt. We're at site number 2. I love this one. It's up in the middle of a forest here. It's a nice site. You can see the header is just in the distance. See the mountains up ahead there? The hills
just up there, hopefully.
That was a field of beans. They plant, it's usually barley for the distillery every year, but this year, very early, they planted beans, and the bees went mad on it. Yeah. like April, it was in full flower, which is really early for beans.
Yeah.
But it was, I think they were kind of doing it as like a green manure or something like that.
Yeah.
But they left it and the bees went mad for it. You can hear the jays in the background.
Absolutely, amazing. It's quite rare to see a jay. It's amazing to hear them. There's one there.
Over. Look at that.
Hopefully we caught that for you. But all this is sustainable green manures. They've actually, I think, been really useful for bee farmers especially, and beekeepers. So it's good to hear that you've got some here as well, Ollie, and you can access sort of slightly larger crops as a result.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like the hives here in the spring average, what was I saying to you? It was like, I think, £55, something like that, £60,
I think,
per hive. And Kilruddery was £60 a hive, £66 a hive, which is pretty good for a spring crop, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because some of you may be thinking, you may have seen Victor's video recently, and you may be thinking, well, that's absolutely nothing. But you've got to take into account the amount of crops that people have around them. If you've got huge crops everywhere all year long, you'll get much bigger crops than honey crops than people with more wildflowers.
Yeah, because like if you think about it, we only have 3 weeks in the spring and 3 weeks in the summer to make our honey, and then maybe 3 weeks on the heather if we're lucky to have heather. I'm lucky to have heather.
Absolutely. So you sort of mentioned oilseed rape and heather and some spring summer Ollie. So what are the sort of main crops that you're looking for each year? Crops,
oilseed rape. Last year was my first year. Normally what I do for the heather is I go around and rob the strongest hives from loads of different apiaries. You know, last week of July, get them up there. Usually the 28th is my day. But last year I made the decision of sort of had this conversation with lots of bee farmers over the years, like, should I have migratory hives that are just for moving to crops? And then some people say yes and some people say no. But last year I said, why don't I move all my hives from the heather straight to the oilseed rape?
Yeah.
So I spoke to the farmers that I deal with, and I literally moved the 91 hives from the heather straight onto the oilseed rape.
So you overwintered all your heather hives on the oilseed rape fields where they're going to be growing in the spring?
They were already grown, they were already sown. So they were literally 5 meters from the crop, and it just saved me, because normally I would have to go move the heather back into all these little sites, maybe 3 in one site, maybe there was like 6 or 7 here I'd have taken, and it's just a lot of work, you know, moving hives to all these different sites. So I said, why don't I just move them straight from the heather, oilseed rape? And as soon as I had cleared out all these sites, I just literally filled them up with all the nukes that I'd made. I made loads of nukes, that was my expansion, and I just literally straight away got all the sites back up to full size and moved them to the oilseed rape, and then oilseed rape back to the heather down.
Well, that is an amazing way to save time and effort if that's available to you, because it can take so much time and effort to bring hives back from the heather, put them into an overwintered site, take them away again in the spring to the rape. So that's an absolutely brilliant tip that I guess lots of people will be interested in.
It's a lot of work, you know, moving hives. It's probably my least favorite part of beekeeping is moving hives. Especially heather, because heather is, you know, 28th of July. It's like, you know, still long days. And the amount of times that you go there and like the bees are still flying at 10:30, and you know, it's late nights, and I never know which is better, you know, like moving into the night or moving into the light, you know? I suppose it depends, you know. If it's far away, I like to do it in the evening time, just, you know, get down there and move them. But yeah, heather, I suppose the oilseed rape would be number one. Never had much luck on beans. I've moved hives off the oilseed rape straight onto beans. Never got anything off it. My first beans is this year. And like, I remember the farmer saying to me back in May, he said, I was up in the beans there last week and it was full of honeybees. You know, which was cool to see, because I could see it in the hives here, you know. It was such a great crop. But I suppose beans never worked for me except for here this spring, and then it's basically your spring honey, you know, horse chestnut, sycamore, whitethorn. Whitethorn not every year. Most years you get a nice crop off it. Then your June gap, and then your summer honey, mainly clover, blackberry and lime. So all the city hives get lime. It's very good. It used to be very popular street what would you call it, street tree planting. And then I suppose the two estates, Kilrudry and Powerscourt, have the lovely lime avenues, which we'll be driving up later. So you
can't wait for that.
It is beautiful. I was speaking to the head gardener here actually, Alex Slasinger, and he was saying those limes are now coming to the end of their life.
Yeah.
And he was talking about cutting them down. And I was like, no, you can't do this. You can't cut them down. They're because like last year was a lime year. Like, I'll show you the honey. I have some in the car. Like the Powerscourt summer last year was so light, it was incredible.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, with that, let's go and see this lime avenue, and then I think we're going to go up to the heather. So we've just been to that site. We're on our way to the lime avenue and then the heather, but we quickly thought we'd show you exactly where we are. This is Powerscourt House. Well, this is the hotel actually, isn't it, Ollie?
Yeah, this is Powerscourt Hotel. It's a 5-star luxury hotel. And I'm lucky to have 4 hives here on the site. The head chef, Cormac, uses all my honey across basically breakfast menu and desserts and everything. He's a fantastic chef, executive chef there. And you'll see the hives are just down here. So look, we have the Sugarloaf Mountain in the background. What a view the bees have, and they don't even know.
Look at that.
So that's the Sugarloaf Mountain. You can see the little splashes of purple heather.
Just up there.
Just 4 hives here. So all that honey is used in the hotel.
Amazing.
Hotel, isn't it?
What a great hotel. And these places are very important for beekeepers that have high quality honey, because they are willing to pay for it. Now, talking of high quality honey, someone tells me Ollie won some awards the other day.
Yeah, 3 gold stars for my heather honey. 2nd year in a row for 3 gold stars for the heather. And my Powerscourt honey from here won 2 gold stars. My Powerscourt Summer Blossom, which is pretty cool.
What an amazing achievement. So congratulations to Ollie. It's not easy to produce good honey. You've got to get the sites right. You've got to get the management of the bees right. The bees also do something, and the weather too. But if the beekeeper wasn't doing a good job, you wouldn't get award-winning honey. So well done, Ollie.
Thanks, Andy.
So we're here in Ollie's Hilux, and this is the Lime Avenue.
So this is my Lime Avenue, runs about 800 meters up the Lime Avenue to the Lime Avenue gate, goes right up through the middle of Powerscourt Golf Course. And I have an app here to open the barrier. It's really instant, look at that. You just touch it and it's open. So
incredible.
We're going through. And as I was saying earlier, like the gardener said to me that these trees are coming to the end of their life, you know, and he was kind of thinking of cutting them down. And I was like, please don't, because it's a good source of nectar for my bees in the summer. Well, it's beautiful here, isn't it? People out playing golf.
What an absolutely beautiful estate. And we and Ollie popped into the office to see the owner of the estate just now, and she is so keen for the bees to be here, and she absolutely loves the wildlife and nature, and it's so good to see that it is really respected here.
No, it's so cool, because like they've really become involved in, you know, like, I wouldn't say rewilding, but you know, like letting the areas get a little bit rough, like you see here, like in the roughs, like on the golf course. You know, just basically letting nature take over a bit. And at the beginning, people were, I think, you know, like members of the public were sort of saying, you know, this is Powerscourt, the 3rd best garden in the world. You can't let, you know, like let the grass grow long and let weeds, as they say, grow in it. But it's actually, members of the public have actually now got behind it and supported it. And I think it's fantastic to see. Like, they planted a wildflower meadow all around the car park. It's a perennial mix, and just to walk through it, you know, during May, June, July, it's just full of bees, not just honeybees, all pollinators. You know, really is a cool thing to do. We're just up at the Lime Gate now.
So we are up in the mountains, we're out in County Wicklow, and there is heather everywhere you can see.
We're just coming up into it now, so another few seconds now we'll be up in the middle of the heather. So we're in County Wicklow now, but we're just going to go over into Dublin now in about 2 minutes. We're just on the border, but look at that, heather. Calluna vulgaris, ling heather. We do have bell heather as well, but it's only in tiny little patches. There's none around here now. As we basically drop down into my valley up here, you'll see some of the bell heather, which is still flowering, but it's mainly ling here. There's a lot of it, isn't there? We'll pull in up here and have a look at it.
Beautiful. So we've stopped, we've come to have a look at the heather, and it's an amazing view here. See all around. And over there is Sugarloaf we were looking at earlier, and it is absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, we're just driving over the mountain back from Powerscourt Estate back to my house, back to my farm, and this is called the Feather Beds. It's basically cut away bog. People years ago would have come here and basically cut their own turf to dry it out in the summer and basically keep their houses warm in the winter. Here we go down and look at the heather here. It's looking good this year.
So Ollie, how do you decide when you bring the hives up here to the heather?
I go by the 28th of July because I tend to procrastinate a lot, and I'll always say next week or in a couple of days, and then it's probably gone and finished, you know. And you need to time it well. I always find the 28th. This year, the 25th, I got them up a few days early because it was about a week early this year, which is unusual. But usually the 28th is when I like to have them, because it's that fine balance between pulling your summer honey that the bees are still making and ripening, and basically clearing the supers off and then moving the bees up. But now with the migratory hives, you know, I think the heather has to be the main it's kind of like the main priority, if you know what I mean. Basically have them up here just as it's coming into flower.
Well, heather is obviously a prized delicacy, and I think Ollie does it really well. You won another award for this heather, didn't you, Ollie?
Yeah, another 3 gold stars, second year in a row. But you know, just about the heather up here is like in the UK, Yorkshire and Scotland, you know, like the grouse farmers basically manage the heather, and it's burnt, you know, like every few years. I think it's about one every 7 years. They kind of burn strips of it. We don't have that here, so you know, like our heather tends to be old and, you know, not as good, I suppose, as the Yorkshire moor heather and the Scottish heather. But sometimes we get, you know, like basically tourists with a barbecue, light a fire, and you know, half the mountain burns down, which is terrible. But sometimes, you know, the heather comes back nice and fresh. Don't worry, it's not me coming up here burning down.
Good point.
But yeah, it looks like it's actually going over a little bit here, doesn't it? Maybe it's drying out. We've had no rain, only little bits of rain. And it is pretty windy up here. We're quite high altitude, so obviously wind dries out flowers as well and plants, and so that will have an effect on nectar too. And we have the little frockins there. Do you know the frockins?
So Ollie spotted something here he's going to show us.
Wild bilberries, but they've probably been picked. So these here will be the wild bilberries. We call them frockins. They're like small little blueberries, about half the size of a blueberry. And you'll see people, there's one. There's one there. If you want to try it, Andy, a little shriveled one.
Right,
So
I'm going to give this a go. It's absolutely tiny. Oh, it's very much like a blueberry, isn't it?
Yeah. So you'll see people like along the side of the roads, you know, like I suppose during July, and you'll be wondering, like, you'll see them bending down picking. They're actually picking all the frockins or the wild bilberries. But yeah, they make frockin' jam and things like that out of it.
And on top of it, they produce a fruit, so potentially the bees are foraging on the actual flower before the fruit.
Yeah, there would be, yeah, if you had them up here. Yeah. It's beautiful though, isn't it?
Amazing. Yeah, we're just saying how just gorgeous it is up here. It's pretty empty, and you just feel how big the world is up here.
Yeah. It's on for miles and miles. Look at all that mountain of just heather. Beautiful.
What a perfect place to put some hives. So that was great up at the heather. We've got one more apiary to show you. We're here now, and it is super interesting. What are these things on the front of the hive here, Ollie?
They're my pollen traps. So I put pollen traps on and run them through the whole season. Basically collecting pollen as another product. I sell it into shops. Those little tubes on the front are basically the drone tubes. This one here is a swarm I caught. And the one beside it has like a weighing scales on it. It's supposed to tell me fantastic things, but it doesn't really do anything. I haven't logged into the app in a long time. But it's just basically solar powered. It's supposed to tell me different things about what's happening in the hive. But yeah, the pollen traps are great. There's a little mesh. There's like a little pink floor inside that the bees have to crawl through, and they knock off one of the pollen sacs, so they manage to get in one. And you see now they're all coming back from the header. They're actually quite busy here now. They're flying up to the headers about 800 meters away from me here. And those tubes are actually for the drones to get in and out, and a queen. And you'll see worker bees do go through it, so some extra pollen gets in that way. But I suppose in the greater sense of things, most of the workers are literally going in through the entrance at the bottom. So we'll have a look and see. I emptied these pollen traps yesterday afternoon, so there might be nothing in them. Pollen traps are coming off on Monday anyway, so there's 20 pollen traps here. So we'll find a hive that's good and busy. See, this one's not really doing much today. And this one here, maybe. They're getting stuck now. So that's only, looks even some ants, but there's not much here at the moment. They were only emptied yesterday, and it's been hasn't been amazing weather since yesterday. Maybe this one over here, if I can get in past the ladders.
Well, that's better.
A little bit more there. Oh yeah.
Some really nice vibrant orange pollen there. What's that, Ollie?
I've no idea. No. There's still a bit of bramble there, and this, I'd love to know what this light coloured. It's nice. But there's not much now, it's coming to the end of the season for the pollen. But that's basically the traps. The bees go in through the front and they go up through the floor, and one of the pollen baskets is knocked off, and that goes down into the trap, and then I collect it every day, sometimes every second day, but normally you try and do it every day, because you'll get wax moth in there. They're laying eggs. If you leave it too long, those little wax moth larvae come out and they start spinning cocoons, and it just becomes a mess. So because it's a fresh product, it ferments very quick, moisture is very high, it's full of yeast off the plants, so you really need to process it as soon as possible.
Excellent. So what kind of time period do you keep pollen traps on the hives for?
May till now. I run them right through. People say, oh, you can only put pollen traps on for like 1 or 2 days at a time. These traps actually allow some pollen to get through, about half of it. So the only thing I've noticed is that when the colony sees there's a reduction in pollen, they basically divert more bees to collecting pollen, which means a reduction in honey, but these hives are for collecting pollen. Yeah. And they make some honey too.
And the pollen's obviously a valuable product for Ollie as he sells it, as is to customers.
Yep. And it's a very, very popular product too, yeah.
So for people who don't know, pollen is talked of as a superfood. It's full of vitamins, minerals, trace elements,
antioxidants. It has the full, complete, is it the amino acid chain? So it's like a very good source of protein as well, which is why the bees use it. But you'd have to eat large amounts of it, wouldn't you, to be of any benefit to humans. But over here behind as well, I have a flow hive, which a lot of beekeepers frown upon. But in fairness, I actually love it. It was a customer gave me this. I was delivering honey to a customer, and I saw she had a flow hive up in her rockery, and I said, oh cool, you've got a flow hive. And she says, yeah, she bought it during the crowdfunding all them years ago off the Australian father and son, and she literally was bought into it. Like, I think it's the reason why beekeepers don't like the flow hive, is that it was kind of sold that you put it there and you can go out on a Sunday morning and literally turn a key and fill up a jar of honey and go in and put it on your breakfast. And there was never really much about the weekly management of the hive, and you know, basically brood diseases, and you know, like what we do every day as beekeepers. But she gave it to me eventually anyway. She came the next time and she brought it with her, and I put bees in it. That was 2020. I put bees in it, and it was only when they started filling the super. You'll see the super here on the side. If you go around that way, Andy, you can see inside there. You'll see here on the back, see here on this side, you can see the plastic combs that the bees fill with the nectar and ripen into honey. So I had this on the hive, they were filling it with nectar, and then I said, how do I get this out? So I started looking, and then obviously she hadn't given me all the tools and bits and pieces that I needed, so I just let the bees rob it out and put them back in a normal hive. But then October 2020, the 2nd of October 2022 was when I said I'm going to harvest the honey, and the moment I turned that key and the honey like literally flowed out of the little pipes on the back of the hive was amazing. Yeah, it like genuinely, I went from I want to throw this on the fire to this is really cool. And I could see how it would work for somebody who's basically a hobby beekeeper and just wants 1 or 2 beehives. They don't need all the stuff I have inside. You know, if they literally put it through a little sieve straight into a jar, it's perfect for, you know, we say like home consumption, you know.
Do you ever get any problems with crystallization in it, Olly?
Last year I was late, and this year I'm probably going to be the same, in that the heather, I need to really harvest this one. This one swarmed on me last year. There was so many bees on it that you couldn't see the hive. Yeah, it just like looked like a big block of bees. But yeah, that one swarmed. It's only 8 frames, whereas you know, like all my other Langstroth hives are 10 frames. So you've got that. You need to be a little more wary of it. And I only have 1 super. It'd probably be better if I had 2. Yeah. And it would also be nice if I could make a clearing board for it, because there's no reason why I can't extract it inside. You know, like a lot of people do it on the hive, but there's no reason why I couldn't have a second box, make a clearing board like my other clearing boards, and clear the bees down, and then bring this box inside and put in the tubes and turn the key, and same thing, without the risk of the bees. You know, I suppose it looks nice and scenic having it out here for social media with the honey flowing out and the bees flying around, but in reality it'd probably be easier to bring the box inside. Yeah, and you can do it in a sterile environment. But yeah, it's a nice hive. It's full of bees, and they're probably bringing in Heather, which is my signal, and she's a green queen. She's last year's queen. I usually mark on the roof of the hive when they're marked and clip, you know, like what's in it, just with the pen, so I know straight away what's in there.
Just with a brick there, just like us over in Wales. Well, what a brilliant tour that was. I've learned lots, and it's been so interesting seeing some of the sites that Olly's on and what he's doing. The awards he wins are an absolute credit to him. What a brilliant place. So thank you for showing us around, Olly.
No problem, Andy. Thanks a million for coming. It's cool hanging out.
Absolutely loved it. Thank you, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye-bye.